Hey guys, welcome to a weekly question video. If you want to leave us a question, details on how to do that is down below, as well as a link to our Patreon if you want to support the channel, get more content, and all the things. So somebody asked me this week what my opinion is on different implements. Is what's worse, a paddle or a cane? What about a leather strap? Like all the things, right? And I thought I would give my opinion, thought I would talk through that. In our relationship, we use paddles, canes, a loop, and that's pretty much what we use primarily now. We have tried a leather paddle, we've tried a leather strap before, so I do have some opinions on different things. And we've also tried like household items as implements. So I thought I would talk through all of that. So household items as implements, I'll start there. We've used wooden spoons, we've used, the blind rod turner, like you know what I'm talking about, the turner on the blinds. I think it's called a blind rod. I'm not 100% sure on what it's actually called, but we've used one of those. I've used a bath brush. We have used a hairbrush. And all of those things can work. However, what we have found is things that are not designed as spanking implements, eventually they wear out, they degrade, or they just don't work as well as they could without some modification at least. So with the blind rod, it like bent. It bent pretty badly because it just isn't made to withstand the impact of spanking. And so eventually we had to kind of move past that because it was just not working. With the bath brush, it was bamboo, and bamboo is very brittle if you don't take care of it properly, and the bamboo that they use for bath brushes is not the highest quality, and so it ended up breaking because it split. Same thing with our wooden spoons is, we've never broken a wooden spoon. However, the grain texture of wooden spoons, because they are not made to be spanking implements, at least not to the degree that we use them in domestic discipline, the grain texture was really just causing a lot of irritation on my skin and was causing a lot of like skin damage that didn't necessarily need to happen. And so we kind of have moved past using household implements because of those things. However, if you like using wooden spoons, if you like using hairbrushes, if you like using bath brushes, any of those things, it's definitely possible, and they are very readily available. I mean, that is the one thing I can say about that is you can walk into almost any store and find something to spank with. And so it is appealing for that reason. If you want to use something like a wooden spoon or a bath brush or anything like that, and you don't want to have the wood grain be an issue, you can sand them down. I've done that with one of our wooden spoons that we used to use. I sanded it down, and then I just coated it with beeswax so that it would be a lot smoother and that it would moisturize the wood, and it worked really well. So definitely do that if you are going to use wooden spoons or wooden household objects primarily. And if you're going to use something else around the house, just make sure that it's withstanding the impact, that you're not going to risk breaking it on your taken in hand, because you don't want that to happen. So the next thing that we don't use anymore is leather straps or leather belts, anything like that. We've tried it in the past. Coda doesn't like using a leather strap. He just doesn't feel like he has the control that he would like. He likes to have a lot of control over where things land, what the sensation is being created, the amount of force, and he just found that he didn't like the using a leather strap for that reason. leather does sting. It's an effective implement. For me personally, it's all surface sting, so it really depends on the sensation you're trying to create. For us, we like to have more of the lasting soreness that continues beyond just the spanking itself, at least for a day or two at minimum. And the leather strap just didn't really lend itself to that. It can. Don't get me wrong. If you use something effectively enough, it certainly can. But Coda just wasn't invested enough to be able to develop the skills to give the type of spanking that he wanted to give with that implement. And so that's why we stepped away from it. But it is a very fine choice. A lot of people really do like it, and it is very effective. And again, a good quality leather belt is something that you can find in a lot of different places. And so it's definitely available and it is effective. So it's a good choice, just not the choice for us. Now, one thing that we do use is paddles. Paddles come in all different shapes and sizes, made of all different materials. Our primary choice is acrylic, and it's just because it gives a very stingy surface sensation, as well as a lasting soreness. It's almost like a burning sensation, and that is something that Coda really likes. It's something that he finds very effective. It is very effective in our discipline system, and so that's the reason why we gravitate towards acrylic paddles. But there's all different types of woods. There's metal. There's paddles of, you can find any, like I said, so many materials. I think I've seen rubber paddles and silicone paddles and leather paddles, and we've tried a leather paddle before, but again, like, leather to me just doesn't have the same kind of effect as a more rigid paddle like acrylic. And so we like paddles because, well, Coda likes paddles because it is weighted and balanced to where it's very easy to swing. It's very effective. He can control where it lands very easily. He can control the force that is being used, and he just really likes being able to have that type of control over the discipline session. And so he really does like paddles. They are very effective. I think that paddles are one of the more versatile tools in the toolbox, because depending on how you swing, the force you use, it can be a very light sensation. It can be, you can build up, you can, create a less severe spanking or a more severe spanking, but paddles can cause a lot of motivation, shall we say. And so it is one of those things that we really do gravitate towards paddles. And yeah. Now, one thing that we started using more recently is our cane and our loop, and I'm going to kind of put these together. The cane that we use and the loops that we use are made of Delrin. I hope I'm saying that right. I hardly ever hear anyone say the name out loud, but that's the way it looks to be spelt. So that's the material that we use. It is a synthetic material. Now, canes and loops can be made out of a lot of different materials as well. I've seen fabric covered cord. I've seen rubber covered cord. I've seen cord itself. I've seen bamboo. I've seen wood. I've seen acrylic. I've seen other natural materials. There are a lot of things that you can make canes and loops from. The reason we chose the ones that we have is because not only are they common, they're easily accessible through online resources, but they're also very easy to maintain and take care of because they are synthetic. Any natural material you're going to have to take care of. We live in a dry climate, which means that anything that's leather or wood, we have to condition in order to maintain its structure and its integrity. And I just don't want to have to think about it and worry about maintaining natural materials, to be honest. And so it's much easier for us to have the synthetic materials because it doesn't require the ongoing maintenance, and they're easier to clean and sanitize, to be honest. Natural materials, because they are porous, they will be harder to sanitize. Now, that may or may not be a concern of yours, but it is something to note. And so this person that asked this question, that wanted my opinion, they asked if canes are worse than paddles. I would say unequivocally yes. A cane and a loop, because of the nature of the structure, it is going to create a much stronger sensation because it is a smaller surface area that is being struck. And so you have to think about, like, canes do have the potential to break skin, so you do want to be careful of that, especially if they are wrapping. So you really want to be careful of your placement. You want to be careful what kind, where you're hitting. You just want to be mindful about your technique with caning. And so, but they do hurt more. They do cause more sensation. They do cause a more lasting sensation. And the loop that we have, because it's a braided loop, and so because of the way it's braided, it not only creates that sensation, but where it is braided, all the little points that actually make contact with my skin, each one of those points creates its own sensation. And so it is very, very intense. And again, much, much more intense than the paddle. But it's very effective, and it is very safe. Now, Coda has practiced. He has practiced his technique. He has practiced his aim. He's practiced placement. And so before we ever used it for a spanking, he really did take the time to determine how to use the cane effectively so that he would not cause damage, so that he would be hitting areas that he intended to hit and nowhere else. And so you really take that into consideration, that a cane, now a loop I would say is a little bit easier as far as, ease of use and being able to use it without as much technique or experience. But just keep in mind, especially with a cane, you're going to want to think through how to use it. You're going to want to develop some technique, and you're going to want to practice a little bit, because it's not exactly a straightforward implement in that regard. So that's my opinion, and take it for what you will. I feel like I have a pretty educated opinion because not only do we use these things, I have experience receiving them, but I've also done a lot of research on different implements and the information that's out there. Definitely do more research than just this video if you want to incorporate any of these implements. And because there is a lot of research out there, there is a lot of sources out there that can talk more, especially about the more intense implements like the cane. There's a lot of resources on how to do that safely and how to do that effectively. And yes, so please, 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 if you want to incorporate any of these implements into your discipline structure, do additional research to figure out how to do that in a way that makes sense for your relationship. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining me, and until next time.